what you can see here is a representation of the body as a tube, a dynamic tube. The core locks internally. Inside the machine is the spine. Inside the machine is your guts and viscera, lungs, all that stuff. But let's think about this from a rotational mechanics perspective, from a sports perspective, setting out each of the pieces. So this is the sternum here. So that's the sternum up here, the breastbone. The solar plexus, which is below that in the center of the chest. So that's where your Superman logo would go, right on the solar plexus. Running straight down, there's your center of gravity. It's actually inside your body, and it changes. The center of gravity could be out here, it could be over here, it could be over here in dynamic movements. So center of gravity is a weighted average calculation. So if you're holding a heavy object in your arms, so for this little tube, this would be like a big barbell or deadlift. The center of gravity then, in this scenario, would shift to here. It shifts outside of the human body. And that's how amazing we are. So this structure and this core structure enables us to do really crazy stuff, like manage things that are outside the center of gravity of our own body. But let's come back to the tube example. So what we're going to look at then is starting with the sternum. And the concept of this, around this solar plexus, we want to think about the side body. We want to think about the side body. This is really overlooked, really undertrained. So this is us from the side. Everybody looks good from the side. This is that hot oblique line that you would see in like gym models and stuff. They'll train this puff. And there's the hip girdle coming up through there. And there's the sling. So the serratus is running under the shoulder like a sling. The arm is way up here, and all of the support structure for that arm is down here. So again, the arm is up here, and it's doing things, and it's flapping in space, and it's carrying heavy tools and doing fantastic stuff and hitting baseballs, doing push-ups, etc. But the support structure for that arm is here. It's down here. That's the essential point, and that's the essential point that an athlete needs to know, because that way you can bring your awareness to it. It actually kind of wraps and feel that connection under your shoulder girdle, under the shoulder girdle. So anytime you get trappy or hunchy, that's a substitution. It's substituting away, the work away from the base of support, which is pulling this shoulder, constantly locating that structure, and now the arm has strength because it has a base of support. The arm musculature, as you can see from this diagram here, is like this little teeny thing that's kind of flopping out in space. And it's very loosely connected to the body. The arm is very loosely connected to the body with very small bones, very strong musculature up here. All the strength of that connection comes from this wrapping that comes from the obliques. And the obliques fuse together here in the center, just like my fingers. And they wrap. And their obliques are kind of hard to understand because they do the push-pull motion. See, my one arm is pulled back. See how it pulls back? And the other one is pushing. So that's push and pull and push and pull. And it makes sense because if you want to turn something in 360 degrees, if one side goes this way, the other side has to go back because we're thinking about circles now. We're not thinking about linear bicep curl kind of stuff. The bicep is a relatively stupid muscle. We love it. It looks great, but it's stupid. It has one job. It's a string that runs from here to here, and it goes bam, bam, bam. That's the only thing that it does. It's like a stick. Versus this type of an engagement is much more complicated. It's harder to train until people can get the feeling of it in their body, because this is built into us. Although I'm doing like a math kind of diagram, this is built into us. I mean, we don't have to do anything to show up and have this happen for us. But the concept in terms of training it is to understand that we want to think about that connection being from the solar plexus and running to the front of the obliques, right here and right here and right here in the center line of this, right up to the solar plexus, again, where your Superman, the bottom of the S on your Superman logo starts here. And then you've got this wrapping or a sling. You got a sling underneath the shoulder, and that's called your shoulder girdle. So up here around the arm is your rotator cuff, and we obsess about this rotator cuff, and we should. But no matter how fantastic all the patterns and all the little nitnoid stuff that goes on, and I'm going to say it again, nitnoid stuff that goes on in the rotator cuff is irrelevant and useless if the underlying structure in the base of support for your body is weak. If you are weak in your obliques up here, if you are weak in your rhomboids, that's the back part of the sling. See, the rhomboids go from the back, they wrap around, they connect all the way up here. And let's see, on this side of the diagram, I have the serratus. Here we go. Wrapping here from the solar plexus, wrapping along the sides, fusing with the obliques. So the serratus and the upper obliques fuse on the rib cage, just like this. The fascia winds and connects all together, and this is a power connection, and it's on the side body. This is right here on the side body. So the obliques are coming in from here, and the serratus is coming in from here, and this is your power girdle right here. This is your power girdle. You can obsess about this mechanism all you want, but if this is weak, you're going to persistently see how that kind of forms this sling under the shoulder, like a fused power sling. One direction of the sling is going back and up, and the other direction of the sling is going across and down. So you're cross wired. In a very amazing and intelligent fashion, you are cross-wired. So that's that sling coming around the side of the side body. And this is where STPro has to spend probably most of the time with athletes. Athletes know how to do their deadlifts. They know how to do squats and lunges and all that kind of stuff. And they know how to play their sport. But if this mechanism, this rhomboid to serratus, coming up into the anterior oblique and this connection to the front body, if this isn't solid in terms of, one, being just raw muscle strength, and two, being intelligent, that's where injury happens. There are compensations in the rotator cuff is very vulnerable. It's flopping around. You should remember this shoulder is just kind of on its own up here. It has to try to figure out how to do things using strategies, and it's not well equipped to do it. It's very small, but there's a lot of power and control that comes from here. These guys pull the shoulder down. So every time you get hunchy or trappy in a move, these guys can pull the shoulder down. And it's not one muscle doing it. It's the whole shooting match. Bam, pulling that shoulder down. Now you are really strong in the extremities. So if you're struggling with cable pulls, or you're struggling with some weightlifting, or you're struggling with upper body strength, stop trying to train the bicep. Stop trying to train the bicep, and for a while focus on side body exercises that bam get you a really strong base of support there. It builds health, it builds strength. I mean, it's just ridiculous how that works. So you can see that we're wrapping around. Let's finish this out. So now we have the back line of the body. We had the sling coming around from the front, and this serratus will attach right up into the rhomboid. So if you dissect a human, where the serratus comes in and the rhomboids come in, they actually fuse. They're really one muscle. To the body, they're one muscle. And you can see from a biomechanical perspective, they're one sling. They're a sling under the shoulder girdle. In quadrupeds, in dogs, this sling actually doesn't have the core support. There's the dog's little front leg. It doesn't have the support. Let's see if this picture's better. It doesn't have the serratus in a dog functions literally like a sling. It sags like a hammock. It sags like a hammock. And the dog runs off of a fixed spine. Because the dog doesn't stand up, its functions and its biomechanics run differently, and the muscles do different things. Even though they're somewhat structured in a similar fashion, they do different things. So that's really the focus of a lot of the training then is on this side body. And further, you can see here, just to finish it up, the infamous lumbar and SI joint. But if you just intuitively look at the tube, you'll see that when we don't have good patterns up here and all of this musculature in this shoulder girdle, we do what's called dumping. Bam! Everything just dumps into this lumbar. Dump, 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 dump. And it can only take so much. The SI joint starts coming out, so that's a common running problem. So for runners, you think, oh, well, let's train more legs. No, I go right after this. I am going right after this side body because this is all of the supporting musculature. And if we can get this really, really solid and really, really smart and intelligent, then all of the downstream leg work is now, those little running legs, all the downstream leg work is coming off a really intelligent impact where it's like running off a more solid tube. So that kind of finishes the diagram off. And then further, to see the whole thing in action in terms of push-pull is really, really cool. I'm going to see if I can wrinkle the paper here. So this is the way the body works, is you push and pull. So this is the rotation motion. See how that's the oblique line where the paper is swirling like that, and then we unload. So again, a push-pull mechanics for rotational sports, for hitting a baseball, bam, push-pull, then we come back to center. Push-pull, come back to center. And this is an intelligent movement. This is an intelligent movement. Now, how strong you are doesn't matter, because this upper oblique has to talk to this internal oblique down here at your center of gravity. So one side is pushing, and this side's pushing, this side's pulling, this side's pulling, this side's pushing. So you got to think about yourself like a cross lever. You could also think about it as two X's going this way. That would be very engineering. Bam, bam, and the same thing going the other direction. Then you got bam, bam. So you're rotating this way. So this is really the way to think about the tube, and bam, it untwists. So you have this standing posture, and as you can see, when we're told to stand like a stick, that just doesn't make any damn sense to the body. Standing like a stick, standing like doing yoga tree poses and stuff. I mean, that's somewhat interesting, but you have a mechanism that's just so much more intelligent that can do really fascinating and wonderful things. So that's the push-pull, push and pull, and it's a function of this entire musculature. And we think so much about rectus abdominis, just to finish it off. Let's use a yellow marker for that. All rectus abdominis does is it starts up here, and then it runs straight down the belly. And rectus abdominis, we love it. It's hot. It looks good. Woo, see, it's bright yellow. Rectus abdominis is kind of a dumb muscle. It is dumb. All it does is collapse the tube and pull. That's all rectus abdominis does, is bend the tube like this. So when we become over-reliant on the tube, on rectus abdominis, and working the abs and working the rectus abdominis for anything beyond vanity, you can see that it does not support sports. Bam! It doesn't support sports. Sports are all about hitting, running, dodging, bobbing, weaving. And it's about having flexibility in this tube. What happens, and then finally to close it out, what happens when we're weak here? Besides dumping into the lumbar, you'll see running forms that are, kind of crooked, and you'll see running forms where the people are kind of sagging there, and you'll see running forms where people are kind of running like this. You'll see weightlifting forms where people are just shaking all over, shaking like that. So that's a lack of focus on this lateral system. So that's the lateral system, the front, the side, and the back. And you want to think about yourself, instead of being a stick moving through space like a robot would be like, kind of dumb. You want to think about yourself as wham. You're always rotating. When you walk, you're actually doing a little jiggle when you walk. You're doing a little side to side. Now, some people be like, bam, some people have a sexy walk, and confident people have a more controlled walk. They'll be a little bit more. But it's all as a function, a multifunction of this lateral system. If you don't have this guy going on, wrapping, you can see that you've basically got this. This is you. 2 dimensions, trying to navigate in gravity in around 360 degrees. So there's your front, there's your side, there's the flat picture like you'd seen in an anatomy book. And there's the back, the lumbar and the back line. And as you can see, just from simple force vectors, that bam, that's the dumping. Bam, that's the dumping when you're not well trained in your lateral system. And at some point, you're going to lose sports performance, and that lumbar is going to go. It's going to go boom. So again, we want to bring the focus back to the lateral system and think about ourselves in 360 degrees of pure awesome.